I'm Troy L. Smith, reporter for cleveland.com and host of cle-rocks, the music podcast from the birthplace of rock and roll. On October 27, 2001, we recorded a live episode of the podcast focused on Tina Turner and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with a panel of special guests at the Music Box Supper Club in Cleveland's Flats. Here is that recording in all its glory.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Music Box. Thank you so much. This is a new series that we're launching tonight in association with cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. It's called Cleveland Rocks, cle-rocks. The series actually was launched many months ago by Troy Smith. And it's actually doing really well in the paper. He's been developing it as a podcast also. So you guys, just by being here, agree to be on the podcast, okay? But Music Box is very excited to be the site for this event. I'm going to turn this over quickly. And again, folks, enjoy the night. This is something special.
Thanks, Mike. So Mike kind of lied to you guys. We're actually an a cappella group, and we're going to sing for you. Take it away, Barry. First of all, thank you, everyone, for being here. cle-rocks is a podcast I started over a year ago, and it quickly evolved into looking back at memorable concerts that came through Northeast Ohio, in any generation. And the cool thing is, you guys, the fans, are a major part of the podcast because a lot of these things I wasn't alive for. So,
thank you.
We've gone as far back as the Beatles, at the stadium. We've done Rolling Stones. We've done Led Zeppelin, Pearl Jam, Nirvana. It's been so long ago. Not that long ago. So it's really exciting to have you guys here and be able to do a live broadcast. And of course, tonight, we are focusing on Tina Turner, the great Tina Turner. She will be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the second time in just a few days. That's right. It is about time. So we thought it'd be perfect to focus on her with this, and then we'll dive a little bit into the rest of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees later on, and just get excited for that event. And now I'm going to introduce our awesome panel, and I've been waiting for this because I decided to start with Barry Gable from Live Nation.
Which is appropriate.
That's right, the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Sponsorship Sales for the Live Nation. Barry, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Age before beauty. That's what I say.
Oh, boy. All right, I have your bio written down here, but it's pretty lengthy. So I'm going to say, 40 years in the entertainment industry, 42 years?
Okay, but who's counting?
The last bio I found, you said 38, so I was trying to do the math in my head. But 42 years, wow. First with Belkin when you moved here, and then now with Live Nation.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Also, guys, if you weren't able to get Foo Fighters tickets to the pop-up show on Thursday, this is the man to talk to right here. I'm just kidding. Barry knows that I know his phone was blowing up, so that was a tough day.
That's a hot ticket, that's for sure.
This would be a great show.
It's like when Green Day played the House of Blues, and they just dropped it on everybody, and it was the same thing. It's crazy.
Talk to me a little bit. Okay, they call you Barry on the Run. That's the nickname because you're everywhere, right? Whether you're touring with Trans-Siberian Orchestra, you might be at Blossom Music Center, at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, you might be in Pittsburgh. What's your life like? What is it like to be Barry on the Run?
Well, thankfully I get paid by the mile. So, no, it's a blast. I want to call out my people I work with, Stacey Harper, who actually started working with me maybe 5 or 6 months before I started with Belkin in '79. So she's been with. Yeah. She's actually the one. She's first in, last out. I come in and I sort of tap dance. I come in, for catering, see the show, hit the road, and Sue Sendis, who's been our ticket queen for a million years. So thank you. Woo-hoo! We're in the trenches. So the day to day, I mean, God, if if it's the last 2 years, it's been a rough struggle for anybody that's in the entertainment industry. But it's nice to go to shows. It's nice to be in the. I love to say that I'm in the memory making business, and there's nothing like being at a show when a band is playing a hit song and the lights come on and people are freaking going crazy. And you know, I got a chance to experience that with Harry Styles the other day.
Great show. That was a great show.
And I took a couple of pictures. I felt like I was Barry Styles. It was really great to be out at shows. But at Blossom this summer, it was the same thing. You know, it was nice to be at shows. But doing it for 42 years and working with the Belkins, and literally when they started in '66, it was the wild, wild west, and nobody knew what was going on. And we just sort of held on to their coattails and enjoyed some of the most incredible experiences from like you said, doing the Stones at the stadium, Springsteen's first shows, you know, at the Allen Theater, and of course I would be remiss if I didn't say in the 4 sold-out nights with Michael Stanley out at Blossom Music Center. All of these shows, you know, the days that you would have totally changed in selling tickets. But I'm here to talk about Tina. I mean, in the old days, you would buy one radio station, talk to Kid Leo, and he would announce the show, and the shows would sell out. Now, the Kid Leo is the internet, and Facebook sells our tickets.
The Kid Leo is a kid.
Yeah. So still love doing it. It's still, you know, hearing this song and being involved with that. If I lost the passion, it'd be a different beast. But it really still is fun to hear a hit song and see a new band.
I'll say this. I knew Barry was a... Oh, I dropped my phone here. I knew Barry was a Tina super fan because he's Barry on the run and I'm a reporter, he's very hard to get a hold of. I'll text or email him all the time. He occasionally responds. I emailed him about Tina Turner, just like that. Barry hits me back. I send him a GIF of Tina Turner on the phone, just like that. Barry hits me back. So he's a diehard, and it's awesome to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. All right, we're going to move on here to Michael Gallucci from Ultimate Classic Rock. How goes it?
Hey.
Now, Michael is the managing editor of Ultimate Classic Rock, and what I love about him is I've read his stuff for years and years, and I had no idea that you were in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's a global site. But another thing about Michael, talk a little bit about your experience, because you spent a significant amount of time with Cleveland Scene, which a lot of people might recognize your
Right,
work from
yeah.
that.
I was there for 10 years. I started as just a writer, and one of my first concerts was Tina Turner, and what was it, 1999, 2000, something like that.
Yeah.
Eventually became the music editor and was the managing editor there. And I spent 11 years at Scene before I started working at Ultimate Classic Rock.
I feel like your audience at Ultimate Classic Rock, you know, really passionate about the Rock Hall, really passionate about the artists they want to see get in the Rock Hall. So I'm curious, in your experience, what's the artist you hear about the most in terms of snubs? Someone that the fans are dying to see get in the Rock Hall who's not in?
Lots of metal bands. I'm not the hugest metal fan, but it's just unbelievable because they do seem to be getting snubbed year after year. It's like, why aren't Judas Priest there? Why aren't Iron Maiden in there? So that's what we hear. I mean, because all the other ones they complained about eventually got in. Deep Purple are now in, and Journey are now in. So now it's like the metal bands is the new cause that we hear about every year.
They've been on the ballot. We just got to get them in. All right, next up we have Waka Onwusa.
So you're going to put me right after.
Yeah. Next. She is the Vice President and Chief Curator at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. She's from California originally. She worked as a curator at the Grammy Museum. She's also one of the youngest people in this room, so we are all underachievers compared to Waka.
I believe she got carded when she came
She
in
got
here.
carded. You did get carded, right, when you came in?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Now, you just finished up leading the production and unveiling of the annual inductee exhibit, which features the artifacts from all this year's inductees.
Yes.
Talk about that experience of putting that exhibit together, but also dealing with publicists for Jay-Z, Foo Fighters, Tina Turner to be able to get these items in the Rock Hall.
Oh, wow. Well, pleasure to meet all of you.
Thank you. Put that process, this is number one, the most historic. I mean, this is a historic induction year. Number one, with 2 female artists being inducted twice. So, yes, Tina Turner as well as Carole King, who is also being inducted twice. The first time was with Stevie Nicks in 2019. That was the first time that happened. So this year is really special for that reason. Also, this is the largest class of inductees that we've ever had, with the number of 13 inductees. So the process of dealing with managers and publicists with some of the biggest stars. I mean, we have a billionaire on the ballot. We have a billionaire we're inducting. You could imagine the phone calls, just how people are protecting their brands, what their image is looking like. I mean, so this is a very unique class to induct, but a very exciting and active class to induct. It's great to see the activity of the Go-Go's, who will be here on Friday doing a program. I mean, weather permitting, we're still having the program. The Go-Go's are here in town. Also, LA, got to represent the West Coast. So, I mean, it's really amazing, just the process overall. But the artifacts, if you haven't seen the exhibit, it is open now. And it's a great collection. Yeah.
And Beyonce staying at your house? Is that correct?
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, okay.
Yeah, tomorrow.
All right, next
So
up.
with 13 inductees, it's going to be about a 15-hour show on Saturday.
It's
probably.
going to be a
Minimum.
long night.
Get your coffee ready.
Yeah.
All right, next up we have legendary rock and roll photographer Janet McCosker. I believe behind me is one of your great photos of Tina Turner.
Yes, this is the glorious goddess that we are here to honor. This is 1985 at Richfield Coliseum. And we have about 10 photos from 85 and 10 photos from the 87 Blossom show. But
And some never seen.
Yeah, I think so.
I want to ask you.
I know so.
I want to ask you about that because I keep thinking, you go back, you've been photographing artists since, I think, 74.
Yep.
So back then you have a newspaper, so you're submitting your photos. They might use 1, 2,
Yes.
So how many of your photos, how much are in the archives of Janet McCosker that people have not seen?
Well, I was explaining to someone earlier that because Cleveland is such a hot market, we had concerts not only every night. You would sometimes have 2 or 3 concerts on one night. If you include the Agora, which was a late night, you could do a music hall show and the Agora, and then I would go home and process the photos, do the proof sheets, pick out a couple photos to send out. And then you have to turn it around and gear up for the next night because it's all happening every night. So you got to think 95% of everything that I have has really never been seen because you got to keep up with the flow, Yeah,
and I want to plug your book, too, Bruce Springsteen, Live in the Heartland.
Thank you.
Which you just released with Pete Chakarian doing the words for it. But that is an opportunity where people can see a lot of the photos you shot
Yes.
of Bruce for over 40 years at shows around here.
And it was really fun for me to do that because, as you mentioned, that artists and music people had no work for a year and a half. So during COVID, when I couldn't photograph anybody, anything, I was fortunate that an agent out of England said, well, who have you photographed a lot? And I had just worked with her on a Bowie book, where I was one of many photographers. And I said, well, I guess next in line would be Bruce Springsteen. And she said, well, send me some of those. And she got back to me immediately and said, we need to do this. And I got to tell you, other than photographing people in the now, going back and going through all those negatives and color slides, and I, of course, would pump up the Bruce Springsteen music while I was doing that, scanning and cleaning up the net. It was like going back in time because I was for every show that I worked on those negatives.
Also, I wanted to ask you, because I was going through your work today, you have a photo of, I believe you have a photo, correct me if I'm wrong, David Bowie and Tina Turner?
That's not mine.
No, okay. Well, let's go. She's sad.
But she was honest.
Because I
Hey,
am.
it's good. The internet lies, but you were on.
I was honest. I mean, I was talking, but the David Bowie, Tina Turner duo, I call it a confrontation or a battle. He's actually holding his own with Tina Turner, but the one with Mick Jagger and Tina, Mick Jagger is losing that one mightily. I mean, he's just like backing up, like, oh, no. Because, I mean, it was the intensity of this woman. And it was fun to watch. So, okay, that's off the subject.
Well, no, actually, speaking, I'll transition here. I have an outline, but I'm going to bounce around because I know, Michael, you looked back this year maybe at Tina and Mick performing at Live Aid. Am I correct?
Yeah, that was
Yeah, we
right?
actually recycled that story. But yeah, I wrote it probably about 3 or 4 years ago. And I can't agree with Janet more that he was just like, he was both seemed like baffled and surprised and out of his element, which is, I mean, that's, 13 years after, the Stones took Ike and Tina on tour with them too.
And the thing is, I think for all these artists, older artists, he grew up watching Tina Turner, and when you get in a position where you've got a hero and an idol, and you know what she's capable of, and now you're going head to head, it's like, okay, I don't think I'm winning this one at all. I just ought to go back and hide behind a speaker cabinet or something.
Walk, I'm curious, what was the vibe like? You probably find out a few days before we do, at least, when you saw Tina Turner's name on the final cut for the class of 2021. What was the vibe at the Rock Hall like?
I mean, it was excitement. It was, pure excitement. But that you have to remember that period we did a fan vote. So we were doing this virtual fan vote, and it was split between Fela at night because of the time zone, and Tina during the day when we're in our time zone. So it was really interesting to see that flop. And so I'm Nigerian American. Hey, so I was also rooting for Fela because I grew up with him as well. But Tina is such an icon and such an inspiration for me, not just as a black woman, but just as a woman. So I wanted to see her win. And the fact that this is so historic, first African-American to be inducted twice, female, period, like just to break history yet again. She continues to do this. Like she always just laps herself. I mean, and just, I've only had the opportunity to see some of the concerts that you've produced or read about it in articles, but the fact that we're honoring her in this way is just insane. Her energy is incomparable, other than Beyonce, who's now on the scene. I mean, there's no one like Tina Turner, period. I mean, she's in a league of her. It's Jackie Wilson, James Brown, Tina Turner.
She definitely embodies live performance like nobody else. You hit it on the head with those names you mentioned, and Springsteen does that same thing. But there's nothing like what she accomplished and what you said about when she played at Live Aid in July of 1985. She literally blew the roof off next to Queen doing their thing in Wembley and what she did in Philadelphia. If you haven't seen that tape, you should see that performance. You can see it online. But nobody performed like her.
Yeah, let's cycle through the photos, because I wanted to jump into, so when you look at...
That's the mouth. That's the mouth.
Look at that. As you guys know, the story of Tina, obviously, her marriage and musical partnership with Ike ends, and then she's doing cabaret in Las Vegas. She's making some TV appearances. Then she meets Roger Davies, and they formulate this comeback plan. Then she hops on Lionel Richie's tour.
Keep him going.
Yeah, keep him going, because we have photos of her with Lionel Richie that you shot.
I
maybe
took
no.
those out. There's a reason. Go ahead.
There's a reason those aren't here. But you did shoot Lionel Richie and Tina Turner.
Yeah, I'll just explain that when Roger Davies and Tina got together, she was a Vegas act.
Right.
Okay, and he didn't want her to be a Vegas act, and tried to push the record companies into doing a pop rock kind of, it's changing her career totally. So she did Private Dancer, and before that even came out, Lionel Richie took her on tour as an opening act, which was 1984. She played Blossom here, and
it was Richfield. Because
Coliseum.
Belkin,
Did you
Barry,
do
you guys at Belkin put that show on.
So it was
Okay.
Richfield.
Well, okay, I'll take that.
I will say this: it took me a while, and Barry had to correct me like months ago as well, because the internet lies,
Right.
as I've said.
June 1984. At
Okay.
Richfield
Back-to-back
Coliseum.
nights.
Yep, back-to-back nights.
And so the audience is totally coming out to see Lionel Richie. I believe that. And in fact, I was shooting for 16 magazine, believe it or not. For Lionel Richie, I don't know. And Tina comes on, and she, I don't know, maybe she got 45 minutes or something. And she did a couple songs with Lionel. By the time that tour was over, Private Dancer had come out, and she was featuring one or two songs. And then it just blew up. Private Dancer had 7 hit singles on it. And so in '85, it's like, Lionel, you stand over there.
And I don't want to fast forward too far, but in 2000,
Yeah.
Lionel opened for her.
Right.
Yes! Talk about, right.
And that was the Can't Slow Down tour when she first went on that
But
tour.
was
with
16
Lionel.
magazine still around at that point for you to?
They closed up quickly after the 2000s. This is '87.
Yes. Barry,
That's
I wanted.
Blossom.
Yeah, that is Blossom.
Okay.
Barry, I wanted to ask you, because you're in the industry, and you guys are putting on the Lionel show at Richfield, the tour. What was the vibe like in the industry for Tina, who was making her comeback at that time?
Well, I remember actually it was one of the earlier dates. We did one of the first dates in Cincinnati in May, and then she played there in June with Lionel. And I absolutely remember Ken Cragen being there. Ken was Lionel's manager at the time, and Roger. And it was really a love fest. I mean, I even remember I didn't spend any time with Tina at all, but Lionel was available pretty much. And he, like Janet said, they gave her 45 minutes, and she came out and did another couple of songs with him. But it was intense for that 45 minutes. I mean, every song, was a hit. And before the tour started, they put out the single "Let's Stay Together." And
Al
that
Green
came out in
cover.
'83.
Yeah, she had a hit
and that
with
was
that.
on Private Dancer. But that's how this career turned around. That record came out. And the years from when that tour that she was on with Lionel, and then '84, '85, it was fucking incredible. It blew up because just remember what they had. Mad Max, Thunderdome came out. And she was
Yes. Right out that tour, she went into
Anthony,
filming that.
Anti people know Anthony. Yeah, and then the Live Aid in the same year. The 7 hit singles,
The
off
Grammys,
that, the
she-
Grammys.
Yeah.
It was insane that period of time from '83 to '85.
Michael, you guys at Ultimate Classic Rock, you write about all the legends. Tina was in her mid-40s when Private Dancer came out already? I mean, have you ever seen, can you compare any comeback?
No,
like that?
and when I was just thinking about topics that we might hit on, I don't think any comeback has ever compared to hers, because it was, I mean, and it's the music for sure, but it's just the story behind it. I mean, like she was basically doing this Vegas stuff, and she came out, and I know Barry was talking about Let's Stay Together, but I remember seeing that like on MTV probably on a Sunday night, and I don't know if it was on one of their late night shows, but it was like late at night, and that first minute where it's just Tina alone singing that, it was like, oh my God. And that's still my favorite song on the album, and I listened to it again today, and I still get goosebumps like listening to that first a cappella minute with her. It's just amazing.
Well, I really believe that the folks at that time who knew her story, this goes along with her comeback. For her to get away from Mike, who beat her and humiliated her and she left that house and didn't ask for anything except her name, and the judge gave her that, and walked away with nothing. Well, walked away with herself. I mean, and she had been working towards that moment by kind of secretly becoming a Buddhist and chanting and making herself stronger, and her courage was, building for that move. And so everybody who did know that story, I'm sure, attached a good part of her the fiber of her being to wishing her and wanting her to be successful. And so it's that much more a victory because you know how hard she had to work as a human being for that.
And this wasn't, in this era, this isn't Tina's comeback coming at a time at a lull for pop music that she could sneak in there. I mean, this is a huge time for pop music. Michael Jackson, Prince, Springsteen, Madonna, and Barry, right? She's up there with all of them at that time.
And putting them all to shame, too.
Okay, so Private Dancer tour, when she goes on tour with Lionel, Private Dancer takes off, goes #1. She's one of the biggest stars in the world. What was the anticipation like when she comes back to Richfield for the headlining tour?
Man, it's like a prize fighter who just won the championship or something. It's like, yeah, come on, Tina, and she just comes out and takes over. I mean, there aren't smiles big enough to describe the looks of everybody in this room because we all were just sending love and energy, and she was victorious. I mean, this is what she wanted. There's I don't know if it's in this documentary that just came out this year about Tina, but she says she had seen or wished or dreamt herself in stadiums, singing to stadiums full of people, and man, she was there. 7 hit singles, monumental album, a headlining tour, and stadiums really weren't that far behind because if it weren't in America, it was in some of these foreign countries where 100,000 people would show up to see her.
Yeah, we'll get to the Break Every Rule tour but it's the Rio show was 180,000.
So when she went on tour in '85, she did 177 dates worldwide. And I don't even know. I should have looked on Wikipedia how long the tour went. But I know that, because Stacy probably loaded in pretty much every show on that tour that we did, because she was in Toledo, just in Ohio alone. It was Toledo on August 21st, Richfield Coliseum on the 22nd, Cincinnati on August 25th, 1985, Columbus on the 29th, at Patel Hall. I don't even know if anybody ever has been to a show at Patel Hall. It's part of the Ohio Center, downtown convention center. It's a funky, funky place, but we could do 8,000 people. And that was, at that time, one of the biggest venues that they had down there. So she literally was playing up and down 77 the whole time. We also played her in Charleston. I don't think we played her in Erie, but she played Pittsburgh, Detroit. In the Midwest, she was on every one of those shows. And I believe Glenn Frey was the opening act, actually. And he had, Smuggler's Blues out. That was that album out.
Waka, you guys have one of the dresses from the Private Dancer video, which I think is briefly in the video, but then she wore it on tour as well.
She wore it on tour. She wore it in an interview with an MTV VJ, Mara. I can't think of her last name right now, but Mara wore this. Mara compliments Tina and is like, I absolutely love this dress. Tina gives the dress to Mara. So that's the story behind what you'll see in the exhibit at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Tina gave her the dress. I mean, it just shows you her heart. Janet was just talking about her character in Buddhism and all of that, but just the heart of giving, just giving love, that togetherness. So she gave that dress to her. Mara then loaned it to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So that's the story behind how we have that, which I think is pretty amazing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Michael, you have to see those dresses too, because they look like they come up, like this.
They're so small.
Always about the legs, Barry. Yeah. Always about the legs.
Absolutely.
Michael, when you guys do these retrospectives where you count down albums and you look at albums, when you look back at the Private Dancer album, what comes to mind in terms of its legacy for you?
Just that year. I mean, Purple Rain, Born in the USA, both came out that year. Pretenders had Learning to Crawl, and I love Replacements and R.E.M. and Replacements. Let It Be was that year, and the thing is, Private Dancer was there, and if it wasn't for probably Born in the USA and Purple Rain coming out, that would have been the best album of the year. I mean, any other year, that probably would have been album of the year. But unfortunately, you know, she also was up against Purple Rain, which God knows, you know, who doesn't love that album? Yeah. And Born in the USA. But, you know, I mean, it's still one of my favorite all-time years for albums because so many classics. I mean, I don't know if anyone can actually think of another year, you know, besides 1984, where almost every single album in the top 5 could have been like a #1 album, you know?
You know, Janet, we have these photos behind us. Talk me through, you know, we've talked before, and there's a list of artists you have that were the all-time, they were special when you shot them. What was it like being in the pit or wherever you were to see Tina doing her thing? Because when you watch her live, there's subtle things she does. A wink, you know, there's just...
The lips. I know.
This
or the
is
head cocked back.
Yeah, this is so.
She
this
just knew how to play to the camera.
See that attitude? It's like, man, it's confidence. It's she's got it, and yeah, and Mick Jagger's not going to win. And I like that. I mean, I like that she was that confident. I hope and I trust that she was in real life, but she had so much to overcome to get to that centered place. What was it like? Well, you can't lose. I mean, you can't lose with her. You just, if you give me 3 songs, which is probably what I had, it's not that everyone is a winner, but 95% of the shots that you do are beyond good. They're great. They're
you know, and another point that Janet will agree to and understand. A lot of the photographers these days, they get to shoot from the soundboard, which is, you know, half a mile away. And back in those days, you could actually shoot from the pit or in front of the pit or inside the pit, and you really were able to capture these kind. The cameras are phenomenal now, but I mean, these pictures, you can see the expressions and the sweat and the emotion.
And there's a difference to me, because the last Springsteen show I shot at the Q in 2016, I was at the soundboard with a big giant lens that I had to rent, one of those things that football games that you have to use for football games. And I got to tell you, being in front of an artist, a musician, someone who's just, you know, giving their energy and emotion and the sound of it, and you're picking their energy up. And if I'm 6 feet away, is that the respectable COVID distance? 6 feet away.
That's correct.
It's hitting you, which means it's translating into the images too. So it's not that I didn't like the photos that I shot of Bruce in 2016, but there was a marked difference, because if you're in front of an artist that totally works on that energy, emotion level, you're picking up photos that you couldn't get any other way except for standing in front of them.
And you shot the Break Every Rule tour as well, which that was at Blossom, right?
Well, if it was at Blossom during a certain time, Belkin did not do any shows there.
I think
so
it's...
I have selective memory on that.
Well, what I wanted to ask you guys, because you guys have been, you know, you've seen Tina live. When you look at her set list, when you go to online, you look at her previous set list, they're divided up into acts. So what is it like? Because I'm assuming she's going from stunning outfit to stunning outfit. It's like, you know, a movie almost.
And the other part about that, which when she would go out with her, as Janet was saying, the Vegas act, or with Ike, they had the Ikeettes. And when she started doing her own show, they put all the backup dancers behind, and it was just her on stage too. So that's a key point on people watching her and her band. I don't remember the band. The band stayed together for a long period of time. They had a keyboard saxophone player that I forget, but looked like Fabio. I kept calling him Fabio. I can't remember his name.
He was a big giant guy, and part of his deal was to flex while he
was playing, you know, the saxophone or the keyboard.
He was in a movie, right? Was he in Lost?
And he was shirtless too, right? Yeah. Was he shirtless?
Yes.
Right.
And this is all on YouTube. This is how I've seen him. So. Yes.
But she did a lot of costume changes, and that probably, you know, like most of the artists that are solo probably more female artists, although David Bowie did a lot of changes too. But they would change 3-4 times, and the changing room would be right off the back of the stage, and the shit's flying everywhere.
And I gotta believe that's a leftover from the Vegas review
no
days
question.
and things.
Yeah.
What do you remember, when we started planning this, and we did a focus on a podcast episode on Tina Turner's private dancer tour, and Barry participated in that, so did Janet. A lot of fans that I talk to, they really talk about the Break Every Rule tour. They have really great memories of that, as some of you probably do. What do you remember about that tour? Because that went overseas and was huge. And she was setting records.
I think it's just the fact that those years she's growing. She's got in '85. Yeah, she's having hits, and people are rediscovering her or discovering her for the first time. But by '87, you don't have to discover her. I mean, she's a world superstar, and I think it just takes on that larger dimension. She could handle. I mean, I don't think she changed. She had more material and more hits and more costumes, probably.
Probably.
But she just, this is a woman who trained her entire life and got her stage persona set, and I don't think you had to give her anything more except you gave her more success, and she just went out and said, oh yeah, okay, I'm up here right now, okay, well, I'm going to perform beyond that. And that's what she did.
Michael, when you get to the later tours, because I know you reviewed both shows in 2000, I think, for Scene. There were two, or you saw two of those shows. Was there a moment, it kind of seemed like when you research it, Tina's out of the public eye now. It seemed like she was kind of getting to that point for a while, right? Because a lot of the tours were farewell tours or might be retirement tours, right?
Yeah. It was weird because this was billed as a farewell tour, so...
In 2000.
Right.
Yeah.
And, we all pretty much know what farewell tours are. They come out and they just do their act and their same set every night, and nothing is changed. And I went into that show just expecting that, and even though she had nothing to prove by that point, and not that she ever needed to, she was still working harder than anyone else I'd seen on stage. I mean, this was supposed to be a farewell tour, a victory lap for her. Just go out there, do your hits, and leave. And she wasn't. She was sweating. She played like a 2-hour set, and she was doing the costume changes. She was playing like a woman half her age up there. And it blew me over because I honestly, at that point, was just burned out from covering so many shows, and I was like, okay, another big arena show. By that third song, I was like, oh my God, she hasn't lost anything here. So.
That was the 24/7 tour, I think.
Right, yeah.
And you mentioned later in her career, Lionel opening for her.
Well, then on that, when it finally was, they call it the 50th anniversary of her career, she did go out and she asked Lionel to join her. That was around 2008. I know she played 2007 at Gund Arena or something like that. But that was interesting how she brought him on tour with her, and there's an honest love affair between those two. Absolutely.
Can I ask, Nwaka, on induction night, who is inducting her?
Angela Bassett. Yes.
There you go. All right. That's
Angela Bassett.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's going to be pretty
Who played
amazing.
Tina in
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely
Okay.
amazing.
That's
I have to say, on the 50th, I was still with the Grammy Museum, and so we would go to the Grammy shows, and there was this performance with Beyonce and Tina, and so to see Tina and Beyonce performing side by, and to your point, and this is in the 2008, really giving Beyonce a run for her money. And there's commentary of Beyonce being like, holy shit, like, oh my God, like, I'm out of breath. Like, okay, ladies, we need to have another rehearsal. And Tina's like, I'm done. Like, we've been there, done that. Like, but to watch that show, and there's a moment when you watch this video of like someone steps on Tina's foot, and just talk about the professionalism of a comeback. And like, there's never any mistakes with Tina, but if you go on YouTube, you'll see this video, and there's a moment. Tina's recovery is just, the finesse on that is absolutely insane. Live in front of millions. I mean, it's just, incomparable. So
and that's probably the main point of that show that I saw. She was just so professional.
Yeah.
I mean, she just never really broke from that ever.
Yeah.
And it's one of those perfect storm sort of inductions because you had the Broadway musical a couple years ago, and then you had the documentary, and then she gets in. So really, if she didn't get in after she was on the ballot, people
there would have been a whole problem. I mean, no, I think the metalheads and the Tina heads would have come together on that one. Like, no.
Well, they have the same hair.
Let her in. Yeah, there we go. The queen of rock. I mean, here she is. Yeah.
You know, a quick sidebar story to the play, and so with me, everything is 6 degrees of separation with Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and this is a true story. The girl that plays Tina on Broadway, Adrienne Warren, was in Trans-Siberian Orchestra at a certain point in her career. She was also in Bring It On, a couple of other plays on Broadway. But in the documentary where Tina came in to the West End Theater to see her perform there, she was, at that time, probably 78, 79, something like that, giving Adrienne a run for her money, just like Beyonce. Giving the she started saying, you know how to do the pony? Let me show you how to do the pony.
And in the documentary, Tina says that going to the premiere of that is sort of her goodbye to
right, that was
American
the goodbye.
fans. Yeah. So we don't expect to see her at the ceremony, but you're making that cringe. Okay.
Yeah, we don't expect to see her.
I was going to hope you're going to say wrong. No.
We don't expect to see her, but what I can say, I mean, if you watched the inductions last year, you know it was the televised special on HBO. So we can expect some televised moments, and there'll be some. So we're still in COVID, still a pandemic. So, yeah, but she will not be here. We can confirm that, unfortunately.
But she does have an all-star cast of performers, right? Brian Adams is going to be there.
Gosh, yeah.
And Christina Aguilera. Some people were questioning that online, but...
Look, it's going to be an amazing show.
She's got a phenomenal voice.
Plus you got to go with people who do have their influences, and I would totally understand if Tina Turner was an influence for Christina Aguilera.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying, Beyonce may likely be in the building, so if the
step
mood
up.
strikes her, we get
She
some
can
Proud
step
Mary.
up.
That's the beauty of the show. You never know. Anything really can happen
She
in those
can
last
step up.
moments. Yeah.
I'm willing to see that.
Yeah, I'm ready to be there for that. Yeah.
Before we'll take some questions or comments from you guys in the audience. I just want to go through, because we are talking about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony that's taking place on Saturday. It was a really awesome induction class. It's really fully loaded. Each of you, it's a big question, but if you could put one artist in the Rock Hall that's not in there currently, who would you go with?
Oh, God. In front of all these people, Troy,
Hey,
he really does.
Own it.
I'm not going to do that. Absolutely not, because my musical choice changes every single day. I'm not going to do that.
I can't do it either. So
no,
I'm
we're
all
doing
bailing on you.
No, it will.
I'm not going to do that either.
Well, I know it's Michael. Michael is written about these sort of things, so he might. Come on.
Warren Zevon, to me, he's never been on the
Very
ballot.
nice, yes.
Why, he should be there.
Yeah.
All other artists love him. He has a huge devoted fan base, great albums, and I don't think he's ever been nominated, right?
Yeah, no.
No, I don't think so. And to your credit, I don't know when you wrote it, but I think you wrote, 5 Reasons Carole King should be inducted as a performer, and that came to fruition. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, I wrote that last year. So.
Amazing. Cheers.
Do you guys have questions or comments for these guys? Anybody? We have one? Okay, there's a microphone. There's a wireless that we're going to get. Mike Miller's coming with it. I'll come down.
I've been racking my brain to think, would there be an artist that could do and have a comeback based on radio and just the nature of the landscape of music?
It was the time that helped.
It was a time. It was really a unique moment to be able to see her regain that glory. I keep thinking, okay, who do I love that has sort of fallen on hard times that really can do that kind of comeback?
Right. No one. Not at that caliber. I mean, and what you just dropped about the seminal albums that have come out in that period, that's just,
I mean,
that truly is a mic drop.
Right, that she was actually able to do that.
Yeah,
and
insane.
Who had a question?
And those all around the world, most nowadays, they just sit their ass in Vegas and make people come to them there, you know. And Celine will play there for 5 years, or Rod Stewart will play, or Cher. Nothing wrong with that, but the gruel of being in a plane and a bus and a limo, it's you're an indentured servant on some level, but you're doing a great job.
Who had a question over here? Do we have a question?
Oh, behind you.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's dark. All right, it's dark. Who was your question for?
What about Todd Rundgren?
He's
I mean, what's going on with him?
There's a history here.
yeah, I know. I don't know.
Well, Todd has just said over the years, and I mean, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I don't know. Whenever,
I know it is public knowledge, right?
It's public knowledge that he just isn't keen on the award, being inducted, having the award, whatever. He's playing aloof.
Cincinnati.
Oh, he's playing Cincinnati.
I was like, really?
Cincinnati, and he's in Canton on Friday. That's our show in Canton.
So he's sticking to the road.
It'll be at MGM in November. 2 shows. Tickets are still available.
That's right.
That's right. He is coming to Cleveland now.
The plug. Does anybody else have any questions for these guys or comments? All right, I'm coming back here, and I'll get to you over there. Go ahead.
For everybody, was that Break Every Rule tour, was that the same tour, Dancing on the Ceiling, or were they 2 different tours with Lionel?
No, the tour that she went on with Lionel in in 84 was Can't Slow Down tour. That's
Lionel's tour.
That was Lionel's show. She did not perform with him on Dancing on the Ceiling tour. I'm not sure who was out there. I can't remember.
We have one more.
Maybe been Cyndi Lauper, actually.
Is Cher in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Cher?
No.
She's never been nominated. She's not in the Rock Hall.
She's not.
She's not, but there's this awesome picture. There's an awesome picture of her
There is.
butt.
Thank you. You're welcome.
It's an awesome
because
picture.
She's amazing. Yes.
I have that picture.
Yes. And the thing is, I love that we're still celebrating, regardless if they're inducted or not. My whole goal is, you are a badass. You've impacted history. You've impacted the way just culture in general. You are being celebrated in this hall. So that's my motto.
So we should be looking for the exhibition called Badass Women.
Oh, yes. Badass Women. Yes. There we go, Janet. You heard it here at the podcast.
Let's see if you
happening.
can get that.
Yeah.
So I actually do have to give props to Cher, because she did get on the bus, and while she was doing the Vegas thing, she actually did go on a world tour.
She did.
And so,
I have a question.
Right.
I have a question for Janet here.
Hey, Janet. I'm just curious about you and your what I perceive to be a partnership with Jane Scott, being the legendary reporter. And I wanted to see how maybe you guys interacted and how you guys may have fed off each other at these shows.
Well, the cool thing about Jane was a mentor for me. I was in high school, and she had a program called the Young Ohio Reporters. And if you were on a high school newspaper, you could join that, and she would put together press conferences for the high school reporters so that we could learn how to be journalists, without drooling on, having a hissy fit because there's a rock star or a TV star in front of us. We were shown how to ask good questions and take good photos and be professional about it. So when I finally became a rock and roll photographer and writer, she was right there, and she was so supportive, and often, because she's such a great reporter too, we'd get home. She'd go to the Plain Dealer office on 18th, and I'd go home, and I'd be watching Late Night with David Letterman or something, and answer the phone at 1 o'clock. Oh, Janet, this is Jane. I hope I'm not waking you.
She didn't say her last name?
No.
She always would call me.
Was
I've
it
known
Jane
her
Scott?
For 50 million years. Hi, it's Barry Gable. This is Jane Scott from the Plain Dealer.
Okay. And then she would, really, she was wonderful, but she was going to get that story before it went to print. She was going to get all the details. So she was on your call list, huh? Yeah. Okay. And I loved her for that, because Talk about being a professional and just a sweet lady.
And you knew her voice. I mean, if
Yes.
anybody through the years, I worked with her for many, from 79, 80, and it was the same voice.
Barry?
Huh? And you would know who she was the minute you'd say, and then she had to introduce herself. Jane was an incredible treasure, and to this day, when she retired, we had a party for her at the Odeon. The Plain Dealer threw this great party for her.
Yes.
And I told her, we gave her a pass, a lifetime pass, that she could come to any show. And from that year, she retired. Every pass that I have to get a picture of myself, we all get pictures of ourselves for passes. And like my thing with Tina, Jane's on every pass because I say she goes to every show with me. To this day, she's on every pass that I have. So she's great. She was great.
We have a comment here.
Yes.
How you doing? And thanks, Troy. My name is Neil Hodges in Barry. I will rival you. If you are a super Tina Turner fan,
You better be good to me.
I'm a super duper Tina Turner fan. I'm so super duper, I had my brother, Lehman, 34 years ago, do a portrait of Tina Turner for a Break Every Rule tour. And Chris Booth worked at Blossom. We took it. Nate Page, I see you over there. I see you big black bald head over there, Nate. My man, he came and gave us press from the Column Post. We took it out there as a gift. I thought I'd meet her. Chris said that we couldn't go back. We deliberated for a minute. We took the painting back, never saw it again. We wanted to gift it to her, but that was our goal. However, when I saw your article, I'm like, damn, this is the time to give my brother some recognition. I fell in love with Tina Turner when I was 10, and that was 47 years ago. I've been rocking those legs every show she came. Blossom, Coliseum, wherever she came. And so I'm just grateful for this moment, and I will add, Janet or Mike, from my perspective, Tina, there will never be a comeback, ever, in my opinion. She had three things going against her. She was black, she was female, and she was over 40. And she knocked the shit out the park. Yeah, thank you, my brother.
Thanks, Neil. And props to your brother. Your brother passed away lately. Oh, I thought your brother did the painting. Two of your brothers here. Oh, okay. And he sent me the image of the painting. It's fantastic. So. Okay. I got it. Yeah, they sent it to me. It was fantastic. Does anybody else? Okay,
I wish I did. I wish I did.
Barry has the painting.
Probably Chris Abood has it. I'll get in touch with Chris Abood. He probably has it.
How many people have been in 3 times?
Just one.
Eric?
No. You have it. It is Eric Clapton.
Yep.
How many females been in twice?
So, as Nawaka mentioned earlier, there's 3. So, Stevie Nicks was inducted. She was the first, and this year Carole King and Tina Turner joined her. Eric Clapton's the only one that's been in 3 times. Neil Young was not included with Crosby, Stills, and Nash, which may have been a political thing, but you know. And he's in solo, I should say, and with Buffalo Springfield, but he's not in. Does anybody else have a question for these guys? All right, we're working towards the front now. This is perfect. I'm working my way back to the stage. Go ahead.
Frankie Valli.
Yeah, I want to say just a comment to. Oh, your brother just left. Well, to what he said,
Neil. Yeah.
Neil, I mean, just calling out names as well. I know Tina also paid much respect to Laverne Baker, who was also recently inducted. Twiddly-dee, okay? I mean, another black woman who had to move overseas just to be a success in her realm of music. I mean, and just breaking barriers. So, again, calling her name as well. Absolutely love Laverne. So
Can I tell my one Laverne Baker?
Oh.
Yes. She played we used to have concerts called the Moondog Coronation Ball. We haven't had them for a couple of years, and
we need to do that again.
We should do. Well, it was knocked it out for a couple of years, the COVID thing. But I was in heaven when I used to shoot those, and Laverne Baker was on the show, and I mean, probably didn't have like the Google stuff, so I was caught off guard that she was in a wheelchair and had both of her legs amputated.
Yep.
She had, come on, diabetes, and I think that's what happened. But you never saw a more loving, happy woman. She came out and did her 3 songs, like, Jim Dandy, and with such joy. And afterwards, I think it was Denny Sanders had asked for a photo with her, and she said, it would be my pleasure. Grabbed him by the hand and did that. And I said, I love you, because these are voices that I grew up with, plus you never thought you'd have the opportunity to see them in person. And she signed an autograph for me, but she always thanked the person who asked her for an autograph or a picture. And she had such joy, and it was so impressive to see this woman who really was amongst the first that had these monster hits on Atlantic Records, I'm pretty sure. So she grew that label. Apart from Ruth Brown, it was it was Laverne Baker, and what a monster talent, and what a sweet lady. So
one more thing. I'm sorry, I keep
go ahead.
But
you're
truly,
tell us who's inducting Jay-Z now. We get more info.
I am not doing that one. No, I'm not. You're not getting me caught on tape here. I know we're recording. No, but truly, while this is recording, I do want to say is just continuing the gratitude and extension of that, to read your work, to see your work, to feel your work. This shit is so dope. Like, I'm just sitting on a stage with legends. We're in a room with icons right now. You guys are just so amazing. So thank you to have your work at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Like, these photos, if you come through, like, I've hand-selected amazing new Janet photos that we have throughout the museum. So thank you so much. Like, this shit means a lot. So thanks.
It's my pleasure, and anything you need. What is it, 47 years worth of photographic work? Yeah. And little stories like Laverne Baker. I mean, those are the things that keep me going.
I want to, as we get set to close this out, I don't know if you said this, Barry, but, in your time with Belk, did you get to meet Tina?
No, I didn't. I met Roger, because Roger was manager for a lot of different people. I've met Roger, but I never did get the opportunity. Otherwise, I may not be here. We did a lot of shows that year. It was just like I said, it was every, you never really bothered the artist. You didn't really want to do that. To this day, there are certain bands that I just adore. They're my favorites, and I've never had, I just didn't have the balls to say, come on, can I get a picture with you?
Right. You just don't do that.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah, no.
If something were to happen and that occurs, that's fabulous, because, listen, I'm a freaking Instagram whore, and I love to take pictures with people, everything, but it just, if it happens, it's got to be organic, and that's the way it is.
It always has to be organic. With the exhibits, they have to be organic. Yeah, you just don't do that. There's a level of respect. The music is spiritual.
Besides Tina, and you heard this before, where I was preaching for the last number of years, I sort of got on my high horse. Why shouldn't, she should have been the first woman inducted, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. Anyway, but I was really pleased, quite honestly, for Todd, because not only as a performer, and forget about just being here, if you look into what he had his hands in, between the band and Hall & Oates and all these incredible artists that he basically produced. He was spinning the dials.
Meatloaf, right?
Meatloaf, amazing work that we all listen to, and some people don't even know. One thing that Troy also brought up in his article, if you read Private Dancer, I don't know if you know this, but Mark Knopfler wrote that song. Can't you feel that? Same as Telegraph Road, where it sort of moves into a story, and that's what he's so great at, telling stories in writing. But I'm glad that you gave him some props.
Well, it's even when you do research, you look back, it shocks you at first, but then it makes sense, like you said, when you break down the song.
But thankfully, Todd is in. There's a guy that we work with in Live Nation Global who literally almost went fisticuffs at the Beyonce Jay-Z tour with Greg Harris. guy named Jerry Barrett, who literally I have pictures of them arguing with one another about, you better put Todd in the Rock Hall. You better put Todd in the Rock Hall. And Greg will remember that because I sent them the picture of it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Greg Harris,
Who's inducting
Rock Hall.
Todd?
Yeah.
Who's inducting Todd Rundgren? Do we know?
You know, I don't know.
I hope it's Robbie Robertson or it's Daryl Hall. Maybe I don't know. I don't know anything.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah,
no,
I
it
don't
has
know
not
either.
been.
I don't know
He's been
anything.
so
I'm just making it
detached.
up.
He's been so detached from the induction that, you know.
But you
It's
know
a
what?
mystery.
Besides that, I think just what Barry said, that's a drop the mic moment. Like, you still have to put some respect on his name, period. Like,
I
mean,
thought you were
it's-
talking about drop them him fighting Greg Harris. This
Oh,
guy.
God. That could happen. He has photos. I mean, there are photos.
Now, even though he doesn't care about it, and there's a lot of the artists that'll say that.
Right.
But
But
I'm
until it
telling you, their
happens,
mom
come
and
on,
dads
Trent
are happy they're
Reznor.
in the Rock
Trent
Hall.
Reznor, 9 Inch Nails. I mean, Trent Reznor for the longest.
Right.
I mean, there was a whole article, 6 months before it happened, and then The Cure, and then his whole heart changed, and no. So I hope that his heart will change, and he will be here in Cleveland, like you said.
Yeah.
So we'll give him some time. We love Todd. We love Todd.
He has family here also. His son is a baseball coach here in town.
Yeah. He loves Cleveland. I interviewed him and he said he loves Cleveland.
Beautiful.
Despite all his things about the Rock Hall, he looks forward to coming here, him and his band, every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And the thing about Todd, which is great, and I'm sure some here have seen him, you get what you get with him. If you're
true.
thinking you're going to see hits and you don't get hits and you're getting an a cappella concert with him, tough shit.
Yeah.
Because he's going to do the show that he wants to do, that disco
do.
show that he did a couple of years ago.
We did one at
people
the Rock,
leaving.
at the Roxino, and you never know. And he came out just with a guitar and a computer, and he just went through a bunch of songs, and people are yelling out the Todd hits, and he's going,
hello again.
yeah, and he's going. And I shot my 3 songs, and I went back to edit the photos, and I hear, "I am the god of hell's fire," and it was the crazy world of Arthur Brown, and I'm going, what? So I just ran back out there. Yeah,
that's why
I mean, it was a one-hit wonder song, and it was just okay. This is Todd, and some of the audience were not too pleased.
And that's rock and roll.
And that's rock and roll.
And that's
Todd.
And that's Todd. Yep.
Well, I want to welcome you to Cleveland. Waka and I have been on Zoom calls for the last year and a half.
This is our first time meeting in real life.
We've been on Zoom calls with Tri-C and some other stuff that we've...
I know, right?
But I want to tell one little factoid on Waka, which gained me enormous respect before I even met you. When she was at the Grammy Museum, she went there and she worked absolutely every single job there was, from selling tickets to everything. And that's how you learn how. Yeah, and so it's beautiful that someone goes through that process and by osmosis and by just working hard, you gain all the knowledge and the skills that you need to get to this place. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Janet.
I love that. And I know, Michael, at one point, you're editing this global classic rock site now. You were the calendar editor at one point for Scene, right? I mean, just those humble beginnings in Cleveland and now, managing. Listen, I want to thank you guys. Let's give it up for the panel for coming out. Thank all of you for coming to honor Tina and to look forward to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Anybody who doesn't have tickets, they just released.
Rockhall.com. I'm telling. I just give you guys
tickets.
the that was the inside scoop right there.
Yeah,
so,
I don't know if some of that's been announced.
and when
I'll be getting a call
mentions-
tomorrow to edit the podcast.
When Waka mentions obstructive view, it's not like obstructive view at the music hall where they'd stack speakers up, and if you were sitting on the side,
not
it's
those.
really just a boom mic probably, or a boom camera that really comes in and out. And so that's not really obstructive.
It's really not. Yeah, it's an occasional boom. Here I go as the chorus. Occasional boom, guys.
But thank you guys so much. We're going to edit the podcast, release it, CLE Rocks, on all major podcast platforms, whether it's Apple, Spotify, whatever. We'll have this episode up tomorrow on Tina Turner, on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks.
CLE Rocks is a product of cleveland.com. For more episodes, check us out on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting platform. And please leave a review. I'm Troy L. Smith. Until next time.
Hello, Cleveland!
In the lead up to World Audio Drama Day on October 30th, Acast is featuring our favorite fiction podcasts. Here's one we think you'll love.
Fire burned wild around my bed. Smoke crowded my lungs. If I really go missing, the witch bitches did it.
Realm presents If I Go Missing, the Witches Did It. Starring Gabourey Sidibe with Sarah Natacheni. If you like what you hear, please follow and share this podcast with your friends. Realm is your portal to another world. Listen away.
Use hashtag Acast Audio Fiction Week on socials to tell us about your favorite fiction podcasts. Acast recommends.